Right guys, hello and welcome to another MLS UK podcast brought to you by myself, Dan Bibme, that's at DannyB90, and the big man, John Parker, that's at Guitar Spoons. And John, how you feeling?
Hello. Yeah, I'm well excited. I'm here. I'm pumped. I'm all over it. We're back once again. So people are probably sick of our voices by now, Dan. But yeah. It's always exciting. You know me.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. And of course, normally at this point, I'd be saying that it's introducing another member of our writing team to give you a bit of background. This time, it's something a little bit special. And I know, unique individual. Look at us, actually breaking the bounds of the UK-America borders and actually doing something proper on the site, John. How amazing is that? Not just a load of banter and something else I can't say.
Are we doing realistic journalism now?
I know.
Is that the point we've gotten to?
Almost.
This is amazing. This is like the invention of the wheel. What's going on, Dan? Tell us what's happening right now.
Well, we have got ourselves a fantastic member of a fantastic club, possibly I would say the best in the league. So it's a real privilege for everyone involved to be involved in this, just to speak to someone from this club, because obviously they're so widely renowned and they are easily the best club in the league. So that might be a biased view, but I can't think it is. I think most people probably hold this view. So
are we doing New England Revolution next week, Dan? We're doing someone else this week, aren't we?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I forgot that, John. I must have missed that. But right, as you can probably hear some snigger in the background at the New England Revolution comments. You may be aware this guy is from the Columbus Crew, and he does just about everything for them. So let me introduce you to Duncan Outland. Duncan, how are you?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I definitely was sniggering in the background there because, Dan, you were 100% right, and John, sorry, mate, you were 100% wrong.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
Unbelievable. But yes, so as you can see, guys, this is Duncan Outland, the man of black and gold, built with black and gold in his heart. And so Duncan, for anyone who, I can't think there would be anyone, but for anyone who doesn't know you, for people in the UK, or even naive Americans who don't know you, tell us about you and, how you came into the league and also ended up with the Crew and ended up doing just about everything for them.
Wow. Well, a long time ago, I was down in New Zealand, where I'm from, obviously, playing down there, and a guy had seen me playing in the National League. I just started university down there my first year, so I was just a young buck, 18, I think, and he saw me play in the National League and knew a coach at one of the colleges here, and next thing you know, I get a call at 3 a.m. because they completely messed up the time zones, saying, "Hey, would you come over and come on scholarship to our university? We've heard about you." And I was kind of like, is someone taking the piss, or is this for real here? And I kind of looked into it, spoke to my parents, and they said, it's your life. If you want to go for it, we'll help you. So next thing you know, I was on a plane to play college football, college soccer, as you'd call it in America. And then 3.5 years later, I was in the super draft and drafted by the Columbus Crew, and that was 12 years ago. So I played for 10 years with the Crew, the longest serving player in the history of the team, and now they've retained my services on the coaching staff as an assistant coach, in the office as a assistant technical director, and then in the TV booth and on the radio as a broadcaster and freaking basically a jack of all trades.
Yeah, jack of all trades and master of hopefully some of them at least.
Well, unfortunately, not yet.
I mean that's a fantastic sort of. I mean, when you just look at your career as a whole, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's gobsmacking, really. When you look at sort of other guys in the MLS, the stuff that you've achieved is absolutely fantastic. But I mean, if we can go like right back to the beginning, I was just going to ask you about the draft, really, Duncan. And like obviously when you're sitting there, it's something that's completely unfamiliar to Brits. Certainly, is the whole idea of the draft and how it works and things like that. So I was just wondering if you can sort of explain to us how that kind of works. How do you get drafted? What do you do? Are you just sort of sitting there waiting for a phone to ring? Are you just, what's it like? What's the pressure like?
Yeah, the way it worked for me at my time, I was, after my senior year of college, the last year, I got invited to this all-star combine, which was apparently all the top college players from that year. So they had kind of 4 teams worth of players, and you go down and it's almost like a showcase. You kind of go and you play in front of all the MLS coaches and technical staffs, and then you go into the next day you go into a big room, and the guys they think are going to get drafted go into that big room, and guys they're not maybe go home, or you're not quite sure, and you sit there and wait for your name to get called, and hopefully it gets called and you can move forward from the draft. And that happened to me. I was Columbus's first round draft pick in 2001 with the 10th pick, and then now there's a 2-round system, and then a supplemental draft of another 4 rounds. So this year we had again the 10th pick. We picked Ethan Finley, and it depends where your club finishes the year prior to which pick you get. So if you finish in first place, you get the last pick, and so forth down, and that's from the regular season.
Yeah, so
points total.
So it kind of tries to level itself out in that sort of.
Yeah, it's trying to keep parity in the league. So they do that with a lot of the sports here in the draft, just so then the team that was the worst the year before can get a better player, and that's the theory behind it all. And obviously, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice when you're picking guys from that college level, but hopefully, your team's done their research and they know the players that are coming in. And usually the first rounders are guys that you definitely going to pick up and have on your roster. Second rounders, you'd hope that they are, and then the supplemental rounds are guys that are kind of coming in on a trial basis, if you will. So just because you get drafted in the draft doesn't mean that you're going to be with that team or they're going to pick you up necessarily. You still have to go in and prove yourself. So
is it a little bit like getting picked for PE? So you're all sort of stood there in line and captains pick out, and there's always that one kid that gets left at the end. Is that the sort of feeling of it?
It is a little bit, actually, now that you mention it, except, unfortunately the kid that's left out probably isn't sitting around waiting in this instance. There are a few kids that miss out, but they're generally pretty good players because there's a lot of college seniors coming out and a lot of competition now. So I think most people, the league or an agent or a club has kind of tapped them on the shoulder at some point in time and said, hey, just keep your ears open, your name might be getting called. Whereas, that unfortunate kid that doesn't have the athletic ability, he kind of hasn't had the tap on the shoulder, so he's not holding his breath, more likely, because he's going to be holding a long time.
So what's it like then? I mean, obviously from being in your shoes, what was it like to sort of sit there and, I mean, where were you? Can you sort of give us the whole situation? Where were you when your name was called, and what was it like? How did you feel?
Well, I was actually at the draft when they announced it, so because I was a first rounder, and this was in my time, I had to go up on stage and they had, TV there, and you did a little interview, and it was weird because LA had actually been the team that had tapped me on the shoulder at the time, because I went to college out there. I'd been to one of their LA kind of trainings, combine things, and they'd kind of said to me, hey, we'd prefer you didn't go to this all-star combine. We'd prefer you just said you were hurt and we'll pick you up in the draft. And which, hey, that's it was a nice compliment at the time, but I was like, why do I want to put all my eggs in one basket when I want every coach to go see me out there, and I want to get drafted as high as I can and really make a good shot of this. So I was sitting in the room and I was waiting for LA to pick me up, and they had the 9th pick and the 11th pick. So I was like, okay, this is all happening. Well, next thing you know, the 9th pick, they picked a guy that's still playing now in the league, Brian Mullen.
Oh, yeah.
So he's playing, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to be the 11th pick. And Columbus said my name, and I was sitting there and guys were tapping me on the back going, go, you got to go up to the stage. I'm like, why? It's not the 11th pick yet. And they're like, they just said your name. I was a little out of it, to be honest. And I went up there and I kind of did my interview, and then I got off the stage and I was like, can someone tell me where Columbus is? So 12 years ago, I didn't really know where the Midwest was. I figured it was somewhere in the middle, but slightly closer to the west. But now I know where it is, and it's home, man. I love it here. It's awesome.
So you fell in love with it after that?
I did. Great fans, great club, and great community. It's just all in all a good place.
So what's the couple of minutes like then after you sort of get picked? I mean, obviously you sort of rush up there, you do the interview, then you go off. I mean, is there just sort of people everywhere sort of saying, oh, well, how do you feel, and all this kind of thing? Are you just a whole flood of emotions, or do you just sort of go and isolate yourself in a hotel room or something and have a beer and sort of think, oh my goodness, what's happened?
It was kind of weird, you know. It was pretty much a whirlwind because, yeah, you know, you get up, you talk to their reporters and the MLS kind of website and that stuff, and, you know, for the TV deal, and then you down off stage, you're meeting the coaches for the team that's picked you, you're meeting the guy that's going to fly you wherever you're going to fly back to, and then fly you back into camp with the team. You're kind of finding out logistics, what's going on. You know, all your buddies that are players that have been drafted or haven't been drafted yet are kind of, you know, giving you a high five and a slap on the ass, if you will. And yeah, it's I don't know. It's hard to remember everything that happened. I wish I'd kind of taken a step back and breathed it in a little more, but it was more of a whirlwind than anything, you know.
So you get sort of a little bit lost in the whole thing, and obviously we'll move forward a decade, I suppose, over a decade, in fact, now.
You aged me, thanks, appreciate it.
And so obviously the new, you know, crew, as you say, you mentioned Finley. How is everyone, you know, crew settling in, and you know, I'll come back a step. How does, for, you know, now from you and like sort of coaching staff and during your playing career, how does, you know, the draft and the sort of expansion draft is more sort of where I'm going with it, is how does that affect a team? Because obviously, you know, after crew won the MLS Cup, there was then an expansion draft that meant some of that team then had to go and play somewhere else. How does that affect a team? You know, 'cause it's something that English fans or British fans don't really understand, because it's not something that happens.
Yeah, no, it's obviously it does affect the team in that situation for us greatly, because there was two teams coming in at that point in time. That was when Seattle came in. We lost Brad Evans, one of our starters. They got to pick him up, you know, and then coming in later, a couple of years later, we lost 3 players because 2 teams came in at the same time. So our team could protect 11 players. This is from a squad of 30.
Yeah.
You protect 11, then obviously nowadays you have homegrown players. They're automatically protected.
Yeah.
And then Generation Adidas players, which is another thing. These are guys that leave college early that are signed by the league. Those guys are automatically protected. So say out of your 30-man squad, you might have 13, 14 players automatically protected. The other guys are all up for grabs in this draft. So when there were 2 teams coming in the league, one team picks a player, then you get to protect another player on your list. So you can protect another guy. Then your players are all still open to get selected again. When one team comes in under expansion, once a player off your team's picked off that list, your team's off the table. So only one player can get picked by your team. But a couple of years back, when 2 teams came in, we lost in the end. We lost 3 guys. We lost Adam Moffat, we lost Eric Brunner, and we lost Brian Carroll because we heard he was going to get picked. And someone offered us something good in a trade for him, so we were like, okay, well, instead of losing him for free, let's get something.
Yeah.
So we got something, and then we lost 2 more guys. So it actually really hurt the team in the end.
Yeah.
It's hard to replace guys, you know, that are good players, and it's hard to protect all your potential as well. So it's tough. Yeah.
So what does the sort of team then do? I mean, how does that change, you know, the sort of the, you know, attitude in the camp? And obviously, you know, Moffat was supposedly quite a personality, and you know, how do the team deal with losing sort of players like that?
I mean, it's obviously a tough one. I mean, you look at DC United back in the day; they won the championship in 2004, and one of my good buddies, Ryan Nelson, was out of contract. They were trying to offer him a contract, and next thing you know, he's over captaining Blackburn, you know, 3/4 of a year later. So, you know, that teams like that lose a guy like that, which is even a bigger, you know, personality, the captain of the team, you know, the guy that's kind of running the show. So, you know, every team loses them different ways. And in that situation, you kind of have to almost look outside of the market and go overseas and try and maybe pull a couple of foreigners in that are out of contract over there, the same way it happens to our league here. or you look within the league and try and make trades and things like that. But when you've lost 2 or 3 solid players, you don't want to be trading too many of your assets away because you've got to keep that core group of guys. So it's a tough. I mean, it's hard to replace that. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how sort of present day? How's everyone getting along now? Obviously, a couple of new purchases, I suppose, is the term, but not really, because not necessarily brought all of them. But 2 sort of bigger names coming in with Milan and Vargas. How notice I use the first name of Milan because I'm not entirely convinced on how to pronounce his last name.
We'll just call him Milo.
Yeah, Milo. And obviously Omar Vargas. How are those guys settling in? How's as I say, Finley and everyone else settling in? How's it coming together at the beginning of the season? Obviously not the best result for the opening game.
It was a tough one. I mean, tough result out in Colorado, but looking back historically, I mean, the last 5 times we've been in Colorado, now we haven't scored and we haven't won out there or got a tie. So, it was a tough one when we got that game came up as the first game of the season. You're kind of like, bugger, hopefully we can break the duck out there. But it's a hard place to go play for a lot of teams, and especially for some new guys coming into the league, it's not always the easiest place to go for your first game. So it was good to get that game under our belt. That's about the only positive you can take away from the game. A couple of the rookies got their kind of broke the cherry out there, and now it's not your first game anymore for the team. So it's all moving on forward now. And you mentioned Milovan Mirosevic, and I mean, what a great player. He's an amazing player. He's had a solid career. He's been in with the Chilean national team. He's played over in Israel at a top team. He was in the United Arab Emirates. He's played in Catholica, and he's just number one, first and foremost. He's a great professional. He comes to win every day. He has a good attitude, and number two, he's an outstanding player. So we were lucky to bring him in, and I think we'll see his quality. We saw a little bit of his quality just in an exhibition match on the weekend when he scored a couple of goals, and it was an indirect free kick, and he didn't see the referee put up his arm, and to be fair, the referee held his arm up for like 3 seconds when no one was looking. I don't think anyone saw it really. So he bent a free kick top corner from about 24 yards out, which was insane. And it didn't count, but there was video footage of it. So
I was going to say I saw the video. Pretty impressive.
It was a really nice strike right in the top corner. So no, he's got definitely some big upside. And then Olman Vargas coming in, he took a little bit of time to adjust because he'd just come off an injury when he came. So he'd trained for like 3 days before he came into camp with us.
Yeah.
So he was a little behind the 8 ball fitness-wise and things. But you can see, he scored a couple of goals on the weekend in the exhibition game as well, and he's got some quality with him. So, I'd like to see him improve more and, gel with the team a little more. But, two guys that have done great things in their respective countries. And then the young boys we've brought in this year, and a Kirk Urso, obviously, and Ethan Finley, a first-round pick, and Kivan George, who's at the moment is in with the Trinidad under-23 national team. And we're trying to bring in a couple of other younger guys. These guys are just, Aubrey Perry as well, they're just really good people. They want to be here. They want to work hard. They want to learn, which is good for the environment. You don't have guys that are complaining that they're not playing every day. They're working harder to try and get the opportunity to play, which, I think that's a good start at replacing some of these guys like an Adam Moffat and, guys that brought the same. They brought that passion. They brought that willingness to win. Eric Bruner, Brian Carroll, who we lost also, guys like that, you're replacing maybe not their soccer ability at this point in time, but the quality at training that they're bringing, the work ethic every day and the good professionalism is, something that's, you need out of these young guys. You need them to be there every day making the first 11 better.
Yeah. And, John...
Yeah, that's like so interesting just to hear sort of the whole mix of guys that you've got sort of coming in there, and obviously it's a range of ages, experience, and cultural backgrounds and things like that. So I mean, one of the key things we always try and emphasise on MLS UK is having fun and a laugh and stuff. And obviously we put it under the banner of banter, as me and Dan are always having a go at each other on Twitter and things.
Yeah.
So I mean, the one thing we wanted to ask you was sort of who's the most banter in the team? Who's the practical joker, and do they sort of pull pranks on each other and things like that?
Oh, they certainly do. Yeah, there's a few guys out there. You know, the captain of the team, Chad Marshall, at the moment, he's not afraid to pull a prank or do a naked cartwheel when someone's coming around the corner. He might be doing something crazy like that. Or you got a few of the young boys like an Eric Gehrig, a Cole Grossman, a Justin Merrim. Some of the young lads aren't afraid to pull the odd trick on the older boys. And then obviously, you know, I'm not too far removed from the playing days myself, and I've taken it into the coaches room, and I like to pull the odd prank on them. You know.
So can you give us some examples?
Well, I think my next one might be a bit of hair dye in the shampoo bottle for one of the coaches, something like that. You know, just to lighten up the mood every now and again.
So how important?
An upper decker in the players'. I think an upper decker in the players' bathroom might be something I'm pulling next.
So how important?
If you don't know what that is, you're going to have to find out yourself, because I'm not explaining it right now.
We'll have a Google.
Yeah.
So how important do you think, you know, that sort of, you know, camaraderie and, as we call it, the banter between the team? How important do you think it is for the sort of gelling of the team, especially when there's new players coming in?
You know what? For a team like ours, it's especially important. I mean, you look at it and you say a big time market like LA and New York, they're in big cities, and it's easier for them to draw a guy like David Beckham. David Beckham wants to go to one of those two places to play, and then they have money to throw around like crazy to be able to bring these guys in, which gives you that kind of, you know, opportunity. It gives you those big name players, and it helps attract other players. Our market's more of a market where we need that team camaraderie, that banter. We've got some really good players, you know, but we can't bring in that $5 million player, $10 million player. So we need our team to gel, and instead of being a team of superstars, we need a team of, you know, really good players that are going to work for each other and die on the field for each other. And you know, it's been our motto for, I think, since the league started. Now the hardest working team is something they've thrown out there, and you know, in all reality, we kind of need to be that to really do well. And I think we had that in 2008. We had a great locker room. We had a good time. We had the banter, and we bled for each other. When it came down to it, if there was a fight, there'd be 29 guys standing behind the guy that was, you know, ready to fight, which is what you want.
Yeah, definitely. But and obviously with that sort of comes, you know, with the sort of team ethic and the work rate, and that breeds good fans and good support. And obviously, you know, I know for you the fans are a massive influence, and I know with, you know, people like Frankie and, you know, even Iro before he moved on, he was in the stands drinking and partying with the Nordecker. And how important do you think something like that and the fans are to, you know, a team like the Crew and in general the MLS?
I mean, you've had the privilege of being in our stadium, and you know what? It's a humble little place. It was the first stadium, football specific stadium in America, soccer specific stadium, as you will. And you know, those fans ignite the stadium. You saw the group over there, the Nordeck. They call themselves the Hudson Street Hooligans, the Crew Union, the La Tribuna, and that area kind of brings the atmosphere for the rest of the stadium. And you know what? A ton of those people there are good people. They just want to be out there. They want to have a good time, and they enjoy the sport. And you know, that's why, you know, I have a lot of respect for them, and I think in return they have a lot of respect for guys like Frankie and myself, because you know, we spend the time to go hang with them and get to know them as real people. And obviously not everyone in the whole stadium is a friend, but you know, it's kind of like there's a lot of good people in our stadium, and you know, they're a good time. Their little supporters bars aren't half bad places to go hang out every now and again.
And how important, obviously, because obviously in, you know, the Premiership and stuff, you're just not going to get that. How do you think that's something that's just unique to, you know, the MLS, and you know, the fact that even in America it's not, you know, sort of the biggest thing, and obviously it's kind of how. I mean, do you think that that's one of the things that is really, you know, good about the MLS? You know, I'm sure it happens in New England and places that, you know, the players they're accessible, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think the game's growing here, and it kind of needs to be like that a little bit. I mean, obviously, it depends on the market again and on the player. But some of these people were my friends before they were Crew fans, so they were my friend. They became season ticket holders. They wanted to sit in that section because that's where they felt like the good time was happening. There was the kind of the the so-called hooliganism was happening over there, and which obviously isn't too crazy, but it's a good time. It's a party atmosphere there, and that's where they wanted to sit. So, they were my friends before they were fans, and so obviously they're going to be my friends. And when I get a chance, I'm going to go sit with them and have an apple juice with them and have a good old time.
Definitely an apple juice. Well,
that's right, mate. A frothy
going
apple
back
juice.
going back to Hoodlum Street hooligans and stuff like that, and the supporters groups and things. And when I first started watching MLS, it was like when I got contacted by the New England Revolution supporters, and you had people like the Midnight Riders and the Rebellion and things like these. And when you were reading the names, I was kind of like, oh my god, what's going on here? And it brings back sort of in Britain, all we've got is like firms and things who were notorious for putting people in hospital and killing people and things like that. And you kind of see things like the Hoodlum Street hooligans, and you're like, oh my god, these guys must be mad. But then they turn out to just be a really nice bunch of guys who just want to go out and have a drink and watch the game and cheer on and things. And it's something that's really not done in Britain at all. There's not really organised per se fan groups, but I mean that's such an important part of MLS for me. And I don't know, like as a player, is that something that you just felt was a real big part of the home experience, was having those guys there organising fans and chants and things?
Yeah, I mean they do. They electrify the stadium a little bit. They get other people that are kind of, I mean, I hate to say the American fan, but a little quieter people, they get them kind of electric and get them off their seats and singing and chanting as well. So, it becomes contagious, and I think it's massively important, for our stadium and any stadium around here to have people that kind of want to have that atmosphere, trying to spread that atmosphere around. So it's pretty neat, man. It's you can see it in a lot of stadiums now, and you said most of them are really nice guys and stuff. There's still a little bit of that. One group will come in town and they'll walk by where one of the other groups hang out and say, they want to dust knuckles every now and again. A few of them, so I've seen a few of them choke each other out when they've been bored. So, yeah, it happens. I'm definitely not condone it myself. I got to say that, right? But no, I mean it's great for the game, and they keep that away from the stadium, which is cool as well. It's because at this moment in this country, it is a family atmosphere, and it's the families are they see the passion of these people, and it's contagious to them. So it's great. I love it.
And sort of we'll bring it back now as a sort of whole overall view. How do you feel the MLS is portrayed elsewhere? In countries like our little blighty over here. How do you feel it's coming across? Because obviously it's kind of a quite enclosed sport in America, let alone sort of globally. How do you feel it's portrayed at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's getting stronger and stronger because teams now want to come out here for pre-season, and they obviously recognise we can have a little bit of peace and quiet and get some work done everywhere we go. We're not going to get hounded, but we can also get some good competition while we're here. It's not like we're wasting our time going over there and playing teams. And I think a lot of the results reflect that in those pre-season games for English teams. And then obviously a lot of teams over there now, clubs are looking at the players here to move them over there. So I think that's a big compliment, and that shows what they think of the league now. And you look at guys like, obviously I mentioned Ryan Nelson. He was a MLS product. Clint Dempsey was an MLS product. Two guys that have really done great things in the Premiership, and obviously the goalkeeping level is unbelievable with Brad Friedel and the American goalkeepers, Tim Howard, and all these guys were MLS guys. So, there's a long list of American players playing over there now, or guys that have been MLS players, and I think that obviously shows that there's something to the MLS and the respect level from the premierships there. If the respect level from the premierships there, it's coming from everywhere around the world.
So, I mean, like ever since the introduction of players sort of such as David Beckham, obviously went over from Britain, and fans really started to turn on to MLS, and Britain's become a lot more on it since then, and we've all turned heads, and obviously me and Dan became fans, and I mean, how important do you think it is to have fans from other countries looking into America and saying, hey, do you know what, like, because I mean, I remember when I first started watching, everyone was saying, oh, hey, you know, that MLS, that's a load of rubbish, and, you know, it's just like Sunday League, it's like pub teams playing each other and all this kind of thing. But now people are taking it more seriously, and I mean, how important is that people from other countries are now checking out MLS and saying, hey, do you know what, this is a really good league, and it's not as boring as Spain, you know, it's not as boring as Barcelona winning it every year and Manchester United winning it every year. You know, it's kind of it's a better, fairer league, and there are some really good teams there now and some good players, and, you know, arguably a lot better atmospheres. I mean, when we had an American guy come over here and see an Ipswich game, and he said, you know, just how quiet it was. So I mean, arguably
that might have just been Ipswich though, John, to be fair.
Unbelievable, Jeff. But, you know, arguably better atmospheres and things. I mean, how important is that other fans from other countries are just looking over to the States and saying, hey, do you know what, that's a really, really good league, and following it, and obviously like me and Dan do, staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning to watch games sometimes.
We appreciate it. No, it legitimises it. You know, you get a guy like Beckham in, and then you go to Asia and there's 1 million people waiting at the airport just to see Beckham. But you know what? They're seeing Beckham with a bunch of other guys wearing LA stuff. And then they watch LA play because of Beckham, and then they see LA play Columbus, or, you know, DC United or Philadelphia or Colorado, and they're seeing some good games, and they're seeing some good players, and they're like, wow, this league, like you guys said, you know, you started watching it, you're like, hey, this isn't half bad. And then you get a guy like Robbie Keane come over here, go back over there, Thierry Henry, and Robbie Keane was really doing very well and helping Aston Villa out massively. And it's like, hey, he didn't go to America and just suddenly he's a bad player. He went to America, he had a solid time. I mean, his team won the championship, but he was good. He didn't score a buttload of goals, and hopefully will accept against us this year. But he goes back to England and scores goals. So, you know, I think it kind of, again, legitimizes the league, and it legitimizes it worldwide. And people say, hey, it's fun, it's a good league, and their players are good, and it's great. You know, I think in the long run, it's been an amazing move by MLS to get David Beckham over here. Whatever they paid him, it was well worth every cent of it, because he's a dead set legend, and he's given the MLS a worldwide name now.
Yeah, and well, sort of, it's all helping it grow. And in your head, in the ideal future, you look forward into that dreamlike state. And what are your hopes for the growth of the league? What do you see being the sort of goal of the next 5-10 years for the MLS?
I mean, I think obviously they're going to go to a 20-team league. We're at 19 right now, so it'll another team will be added. They'll go to 20. Whether they build on that or they don't, I think it might sit on that for a little while till they make their final decision with what number they're going to, or if they're going to have 2 conferences completely and then, intermingle. I think you'll see a lot more players want to come here. I think you'll see the game grow and the salary caps grow, and it's gonna be a solid league with a solid foundation, because the next generation of kids, all the kids play soccer here now. You know, I have to say soccer because if I say football, everyone thinks I'm talking about American football, which is strange they ever called it that because they don't use their feet really.
Throwball.
You know, that's whatever. So, all the kids play. All their parents were kind of like parents that grew up with baseball, basketball, American football. So now, when this group of kids that are kind of teenagers now are all parents, they're going to want to take their kids to our games. You know, they're going to like American football, they're going to like basketball, they're going to like baseball, but they were soccer players, footballers. So they're going to bring their kids to this game. Their kids are going to play this game. So it's going to be massive. I mean, it's growing as a sport. It's just overtaken a couple of the sports for, TV viewership, live viewership, and it's growing. So it's I think nothing but good things are happening. The league's staying solid because of, the pay structure isn't the greatest for players always. There's some that make bank, and then there's a lot that don't, and there's a big gap between those two. But you look at all the teams, unfortunately, in countries, like where you guys are at, going into administration. And it's sad. Look at Rangers. How does a club like Rangers go into administration? It's crazy to me, that a club that big worldwide, and this league has a structure which I think is going to keep the league very solid and strong for a number of years. So, I mean, I think it's growing, and I think the foundation really is set. I think they're ahead of schedule, and I think we're looking at something special for the future.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we've been following the league now, and we're so excited about just in the years that since me and Dan got involved, and just seeing how much it's how strong it is, and how everything is fair and balanced, and nobody spends more than they're allowed to, and it just seems like such a great league that can only go up, and it's not going to, like you say, you refer to Rangers, and we've got clubs like Portsmouth now who are floundering, and because the English game is
clubs
so
like Rushden.
It's just, and obviously Dan's beloved Rushden, disappeared, and that kind of thing. But we're so pleased that the MLS is just going to go from strength to strength, and obviously it's good to hear you say that. Professional get involved and say, this is exactly what's going to happen. So I mean, we won't keep you for too much longer, Duncan. But I just want to ask you one final question, really, and that's just just to give ourselves some love, really, basically, and say, what do you think of MLS UK, and what do you think of like our mission trying to get UK fans to look at America? Because I mean, some Americans are sort of like, no, we don't want the Brits looking at our league, and get away, enjoy the BPL and things. But we really want to say, hey, look, Britain, we've got this. Okay, Man United and Chelsea win everything. Man City are going to buy everyone. Boring. We've had enough of that. Look over here at the MLS. Look what's going on over here. And I mean, what do you think of that? What do you think of what we're trying to do?
No, I mean, I love what you guys are doing, and that just shows how our league's grown. To have guys like yourselves say, hey, there are other leagues out there maybe we can take a look at. And I'll never say I don't want to watch the EPL because I love the EPL. I love watching it. I grew up watching it. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's the best league in the world. But our league's creeping up there, and guys like yourselves to be spreading the love over there, I really appreciate it. I think it's huge, and I think, I think what you guys are doing is great for us. And I think, you guys could be starting a little trend over there, whether it's, getting people to watch and find the next Clint Dempsey, something, if that's what it is, that's great. You guys can help people find new stars for their clubs over there. I think that's an important part of it all. And you know what? You guys might link people from over there over to our clubs here, and we'll be having some of their players come over and play here, and then they're going to love clubs here. So if you get any inside information on some players that want to come here that are good players, you just give me a heads up, will you?
We will do. One of the funny,
we certainly will.
One of the funny things I've found when I was talking to, because obviously talking to a lot of Brit fans, and I've found when I was talking to people, it's funny how much something like a game of FIFA can help clubs. The amount of people in England I've spoken to, and they've been like, oh, who do you support? And because now, as a first answer, I will say Columbus Crew, because since Rushden died, rest in peace, Columbus Crew are my club. I've always said I follow Man United, but I've never been a supporter because I don't have any real connection other than my dad supports them. Whereas Rushden, I went to all their games. I used to commentate for them. I was connected to that club. And whereas now, I always say Columbus Crew, they're my team, and people go, "Oh yeah, I managed them as a FIFA on season, as a season on FIFA, and they're like, I'm not really sure why. I tell them it's because of the badge, obviously, but they just say I played with them on FIFA.
It's brilliant, though. It is. It's yeah.
It is obviously the best badge in the league. But it's something like that that's so simple that just gets people to have a look. The amount of people that just say, yeah, I played with them on FIFA. I did a league. I did a league on FIFA and that sort of thing. And it's just great to that little connection that you can then go, well, yeah, why, have you seen their games? Have you watched them play? And you can sort of get those links. And I think that's the sort of little steps we're trying to take. And obviously bringing it via the medium of banter. Our specific art form.
That's the best way to do stuff. That's the best way to do things.
Yeah, we're trying our hardest. It was one of the funny challenges we had at first with Americans is the fact that obviously lots of Americans didn't really know what banter was, and they just call it smack talk, and smack talk's offensive, whereas banter's not. You kind of, me and John are the kings of, banter. He calls himself the banter king. I call myself the banter messiah. I've actually got a Columbus Crew jersey to prove it. So,
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I know that.
It's in words now. It's in writing.
It is in writing, physically.
It's official.
It is, and
Messiah of banter.
yeah. So, we try and bring that, and people are like, "Why are you guys just smack talking each other?" It's like, well, we're not. I respect. Well, I don't mind the revs. They can sit at the bottom and keep the rest of the table off if they want. That's nice of them. So, it's just all that banter.
I love it.
And I think that's what we're trying to use to help grow the league. But I will sign off and, say thanks once again, Duncan. I'm sorry to have taken quite so much of your time when I know now the crew's probably falling apart without you.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say you better get back in there and man the phones again. And, they can't live without you there, Duncan.
Oh, mate, usually I'll be sneaking out of here by this time, so I think they'll be good without me at the moment.
Oh, good news. But
no, it's a genuine honour to talk to you, Duncan. So thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
It's an honour to talk to you guys, and thank you for what you guys do. MLS UK, love it. Cheers.
And of course, as we said earlier on, you are now on Twitter, so people can find you, can't they? And how would they do that? What's your Twitter handle, Duncan?
It's actually at Outen8, which was on the back of my jersey. So it's OUGHTON 8.
So
just the number 8. So Outen8.
So you find that.
Send me a rude message or something. I love it. Let's get the banter going on Twitter. I mean, I'm not much of a Twitterer yet. I used to think that was for twats, but now I was always saying, I'm not going to get on Twitter, but now I'm on there, so I've got to get into it a little bit. So this whole banter thing, let's get some. Yeah. So any fans who aren't Columbus Crew fans, we encourage you to send Duncan a tweet and let him know what you guys think. And tell him why he's wrong about the crew, and he will tell you he'll tell you the truth of why we are better than you. But
that's an open call for banter.
I will try. And if I don't respond, it's because I type really slow. And, it's just taking me too long to put down what I want, so you'll get a quick response.
Yeah, because of course.
That's why I should have loved Twitter from the start, because it's only like 80 characters.
Yeah.
So it takes me an hour to type a message on that, as opposed to like a Facebook message, which could take up to a day for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to translate from Kiwi to English, haven't you? So that's
American English. I mean, it's the hardest, mate.
Probably makes a difference, doesn't it? But
they've invented a new language, American English.
Yeah, crazy, fantastic stuff. I've got that on my Facebook profile. I now say I speak English and American English because I am that cool. But so
cool. Yes, you are the banter messiah.
See, exactly. Well, careful, or I'm going to start giving you banter dunk, and the banter messiah. When the banter messiah brings it, you feel his wrath.
When you've been in a changing room since you're a young lad like myself, my dad used to coach back home. We used to have a lot of the Scots and the English over. And I've been in a locker room my whole life, mate. I'm fairly clued up on the whole banter thing.
Oh, we'll see. So, guys, that is a
self-professed banter professor. Right. I'm there. We're going to be bantering you all day, every day on Twitter, and we're going to encourage everyone at MLS UK to do the same.
I could have got myself more than I can handle there.
Yeah, it might
wake up to about 100 tweets, just pure banter.
Just pure banter and some just vague abuse. But yeah, alas, I'll bring us to a close and just say once again thank you to Duncan and thank you to John again for being with me and just generally bringing your cuddly joy that you do.
Bless you.
And obviously anyone who is listening, remember you can check us out at MLS_UK on Twitter. We're MLS_UK on Facebook, and of course you're probably watching this on www.ukmajorleaguesoccer.com. But if you're not, that's where we are. So of course, get involved, get following us, get tweeting us. We will take your banter all day long. Hard, fast, slow, however you like it, we will take it. And on that note, I will end. So thank you again, Duncan. Thank you, John. And
cheers,
goodbye
lads.
from me.
Thank you.
We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.